Now, Cosatu has welcomed the 2024 national minimum wage increase, which will be effective as of the 1st of April this year. Now, this is a significant increase of 8.5% or inflation plus 3%. The Federation had tabled this proposal to the NMW Commission as well as the Minister of Labour, Mr. Thulas Nxesi. Now, the increase helps protect the value of the national minimum wage and provides relief to 6 million workers that were already overstretched financially. Mr. Matthew Parks, Cosatu acting national spokesperson as well as parliamentary coordinator, is with us for more. Matthew, as always, thank you so much for your time. Great news for the heavily burdened workers at this stage.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks for having us. We're quite excited and pleased as Cosatu. This is the proposal we had made to the Minimum Wage Commission earlier this year and to the Minister of Labour. So quite pleased government has agreed to give a very positive inflation, so 5.5% increase plus 3%. And that's critical because one, we must always protect workers' wages from being eroded by inflation so they don't get plunged further into debt. But also what's been quite helpful is that inflation hits low-income earners the hardest in terms of electricity, transport, food, and so forth. So it's quite critical to cushion them further. And so now the inflation, so the minimum wage now is at 27.58 cents, so that's quite a positive thing. It's going to help put more money into workers' pockets, help them to pay their debts, take care of their families, and so forth. It's also going to mean more money injected into the economy as well, which is good for businesses. It's good for the economy in the state as a whole. I think we're also quite pleased that since the minimum wage was introduced 4 years ago, it's increased substantially every year. It's always been increased by at least inflation, usually above inflation levels, and that's helping to give comfort and cushioning the most vulnerable parts of our workforce. But also, domestic workers were originally at 15 rand an hour, they're now 27.58 cents. So that's nearly a 100% increase in 4 years. And also with farm workers who are at 18 rand an hour, and again, they're now 27.58 cents an hour. So it's quite a positive move in the right direction.
Speaking of those informal sectors, Matthew, let's say where domestic workers, the employers do not, sometimes can just flout the processes and the rules. The call for the Department of Labour and Employment to crack down on employees who actually violate the National Minimum Wage Act. Talk to us about how these employers get to flout these processes or bypass the law. And are you able to tell us which industries are usually guilty of such practice?
Yeah. It's always a difficult thing. All laws, whether it's even laws around murder or criminal activity, there's always an issue of compliance and non-compliance. But it doesn't mean we don't have the law. The law is there to change culture. And as long as it's constantly improving in terms of adherence to it and it's making a difference in people's lives, that's a positive thing. But we are worried about research showing that many employers, especially in the agricultural sector, employers of domestic workers, employers in the hospitality sector, taxi owners and so on, these tend to be the big culprits that are not paying workers in line with the minimum wage, or in fact other labour laws too. So there is a lot of work we need to do in that regard, because otherwise you'll have a situation where you have laws, good laws, that the ANC government has put into that's passed and so forth, not being implemented. So we have to do much more. So what it means, the Department of Labour has to do more labour workplace inspections, working with the unions to go to these kind of quite prone sectors for abuse. We are planning to do some of these raids with the Department of Labour for later this next month to try to deal with it. There's also a need for us as Cosatu and our unions to do more to recruit workers in these vulnerable sectors, especially farm workers, domestic workers, taxi drivers, restaurant workers and so forth, security guards, and also to make sure that they know their rights and they're empowered. We have to do much more to also help workers to know how to report to delinquent employers, whether it's to Cosatu or unions, whether it's to the CCMA or to the Department of Labour. We have to make sure workers are aware of their rights and know how to exercise and to report those who abuse them. If we don't do that, then employers will continue to make a mockery. We also do want to appreciate that Parliament last year passed the Employment Equity Amendment Act that's come into effect, and it requires that any company doing business with the state, any tender, has to have a compliance certificate from the Department of Labour, not only for employment equity compliance, but also for the minimum wage as well. So I think that's going to be a useful incentive too. And again, there's a task to make sure that all the government departments procuring tenders also make sure that the companies they award tenders to are in compliance as the law requires them to do so.
And I suppose, Matthew, the recent announcement as well that there is going to be a crackdown as well as penalties for those industries or sectors and companies who hire undocumented foreign nationals, that they'll also be penalized. So I suppose it's also going to assist in clamping down on those that are non-compliant.
Yes, we found that often when an employer breaks one labour law, they tend to break all the labour laws. So
Yes.
not just minimum wage, they might break the overtime issues, the minimum health and safety standards, paid time off, respecting public holidays, compliance with the Unemployment Insurance Fund or the Occupational Injury on Duty Fund as well. We saw that quite frankly during COVID-19, when about 4 million workers are not registered for the UN for a variety of reasons. So it's good when you pick one workplace, you need to check all of them, including around the issue of migrant workers too.
Thank you so much for your input. Those are great news there from Matthew Parks Cosatu, who's acting national spokesperson as well as parliamentary coordinator.